We're going to get started in a couple minutes. You guys are ready to take your seats. Hopefully we'll bring some energy. I heard that the raffle got pretty hot next door, so we'll let them filter over from that. But we have some good information for you guys today, so we'll get started very shortly. All right, tax day was this past Tuesday. How much money did you keep? Was it what you thought? More importantly for your practice, that's when we're looking at profit sharings, things of that nature. But more importantly, did you retain all of your key employees? We're going over a lot of practices. How many recently have lost a key employee in their practice? Friend? Good, good. It's good content. It's good content coming at you. So, my name is Sky Parker. That is spelled S-K-Y. I did have hippie parents. I was born in Tucson, Arizona in the 70s, right down I-10, Tucson, Arizona, a couple hours away. And we are a local practice here in Phoenix, Arizona. It took me about 10 minutes to get here, so I do appreciate I'm hearing from the booths that very national audience that we have here. But today with Noemi Barasa, she is our HR director. We're going to give you some very practical tips and things that we've seen with small businesses. You can see up on the board some learning objectives we're going to go over today. So human capital is the most important asset in your practice. However, it is also one of the biggest liabilities. So before we get started and make it a little personal, this is my human capital. This picture definitely was not taken here in the desert. But hey, we like to snow ski. So this is the reason I do what I do. You can see my little daughter there. That's my biggest liability as she gets older. But today with my CBR family, again, we're local, and Noemi Baraka, she's the one that keeps me going at work. We're going to share, again, how to retain your key employees.
Thank you, Sky, and I'm very excited to be here. I've actually had the opportunity to meet a lot of you that have stopped by our booth, so thank you so much. And for those of you who I have not met, my name is Noemi Barasa, and this is my family right here. I've been married for 18 years, and I have actually worked for CBR for 17 of those years, so a long time. And as the VP of HR, I have my certification in human resources, so we at CBR assist our clients with all of the compliance and administration for HR, payroll, benefits, recruiting, training. And some of you might have heard of other firms that provide similar services like TriMet, Insperity, CPS. But my goal for today is to really give you some proven results that you can take back with you to your office and implement with your employees. So how do you find talent? You know, how many of you were here last night for the opening presentation? You know, you guys heard, I mean, a lot of you were, and you heard how important it is to really focus on your operations, on your employees. So today we're going to talk about people. We're going to talk about your employees. You know, what makes your employees happy? You know, if your employees are not happy or your practice is not going to be successful. So you must really do everything you can to focus and increase their loyalty and engagement. Okay, and this is why. You know, employers spend thousands of dollars, millions of dollars if you think about it, paying for recruiting fees, right? You know, how many of you have posted an ad in the last 12 months? Right? See, lots of hands. You know, this just shows you that we're spending a lot of money posting ads on recruiting. So it's very expensive. So when you you post an ad, you pay money, you pay a lot of dollars. Sometimes you might even hire a recruiter to help you with that, to find that talent. And that's expensive as well. And then as a practice manager, you're stressing. So when somebody just calls in or quits, you're stressing and you're having to post an ad, go through resumes, figuring out, when you're gonna find the time to really interview all these people. And then your employees also go through a stressful period of time, right? Because they have to pick up the extra work. And even when you do find somebody, they have to help train that person. So it's very important that you do everything you can to minimize your turnover. And one of the things you can do to do that is to really focus on providing a career for your employees. Focus on giving them an opportunity. It doesn't matter what they're doing for you. You want to make sure that you create an environment where they feel like you truly care about them. Okay? You don't want your employees to just come in, collect a paycheck, and go home. Because that's not the right environment. That's not going to make your practice successful. So you want to make sure that you create an environment where you're providing opportunity, you're providing a career, where you're making them be the best employees that they absolutely can be. To make sure that they feel like they're part of your company. To make sure that they feel valued, that they feel like, you know what, I fit here, I belong in this company. So today we're gonna give you some recruiting strategies. So we're gonna talk about writing an ad. We're gonna give you some tools for those of you that, you might already have some handouts that we have available for you today. We're gonna talk about where to post those ads, right? Because there are different options nowadays. And we're also gonna give you some ideas on internal referrals for your employees. And then we're gonna talk about career fairs as well. So the first thing you should do is you should really focus on coming up with a recruiting process. So if you don't have one already, you should really meet with your management team and you should really come up with a process. Figure out who's doing what. And that process should look a little bit like this. It should look like, focus on what you're hiring for. Specifically, what position are you looking for? And make sure that the right person is doing the interviewing to make sure that they know exactly how to explain the job. Go to the right source. So depending on the position, where should you be posting that ad? The next step is, create a very easy application process. Because you have to remember that applicants don't like it as a stressful process. They don't like to be, having to do 10 different steps. So you want to make sure that you do an easy application process, and we have some ideas for you today on that. Make an effort to reach the hearts and minds of people. This is important not only as you're looking for applicants, but also with your current employees. So we're going to talk about that as well. And then we're going to talk about an interview process. What questions to ask during an interview and what questions you shouldn't be asking. And then you want to make sure that you make an offer of employment quickly. Okay, that's probably the most important step here. Because once you find the top talent, you want to make sure that you make an offer of employment as soon as you possibly can. And then this last one is also important because you don't want to stop after you make an offer of employment. So what happens after that? So we're going to talk about that as well with the training and things like that. So it all starts with writing your ad. Okay, how many of you are responsible for writing the ad in your office? Okay, so quite a few of you. So you know that this could be quite stressful to come up with the right words, to come up with the right thing to say. And this is the first impression that your applicants have of you, of your practice, right? So you want to make sure you do a very good job. You want the applicants to really picture themselves doing the job. Okay, this is where we want to get quality resumes. Okay, we don't want the quantity, the hundreds of resumes, because who likes that? Who wants to receive 300 resumes in my inbox? I mean, I get that confused with my regular work. So you want to get quality resumes. You want to make sure that you create an ad where you are getting responses from people that fully qualify. Okay? So specifically, what should the posting have? Okay? So you want to be very specific about what the role is. You want to explain it in detail, but not too much detail, so just enough information. Tell them about your company. Who are you? What are your values? You want to make sure that they get to hear from you what you have to offer to them. And then you want to ask them for a cover letter. That gives you a lot of information. It gives you an introduction from them. And then you want to make sure that when you're writing the posting that you actually say, you will be doing this. You will be responsible for this. Because again, you want them to picture themselves doing this job. Like sometimes when we use words like the ideal candidate or the perfect candidate, some people may not apply just because of the words that you're posting on your ad. So one of the things that I'm going to ask is for you to grab a piece of paper. I know everybody's taking notes. And write 3 things. And that's because they're not up here. So I didn't put them up here because I want you to write them because they're important. So what I want you to write is 3 things that you offer as benefits to your employees. Okay, so you're going to write 1, 2, 3. And then you're gonna write whether you offer PTO, if you offer holiday pay, health benefits, flexible hours, things like that. You want to write that because that should be included as part of your posting. Okay, that's very important. You want to make sure that those applicants, when they see the posting, they see that you have a full offering for them. Wow, this is a great company. Look at all the benefits they offer. Okay. So those of you that have stopped by our booth probably have this handout already. And if you haven't, we will be here through tomorrow. We do have 3 handouts for you today, and this is one of them, just to give you an example of what a job posting should look like. Okay, so now we have our posting, right? That step is done. Now we move to the next one. Where do we post the ad? What is the best place, right? So the recruiting websites that's so popular right now. I think if I asked where you posted your ads, everybody would probably say online, right? But the one thing that you may not be doing is having an applicant tracking system. Okay? An applicant tracking system is going to allow you to keep your resumes in one place. Because right now, if you're posting in different websites, the emails are all coming in, they're not in order. But if you do come up with an applicant tracking system, you post from this applicant tracking system and it goes into all the different websites that you see here. And then when they apply to the position, it all comes down to one place. From that place, you as a manager determine if it's a yes, a no, a maybe, and you can actually schedule an interview from there. You can also add a pre-screen questionnaire, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But that is a great way. If you don't have an applicant tracking system, I want to encourage you to get one because you came here looking for ideas on how to improve your processes, and that will be one way to streamline the resume search. The other one is an internal referral program. Okay, this one's actually a very good program because your employees can actually refer their coworkers and friends. So we're recommending that you create a bonus structure, a bonus program for your employees, and after they refer somebody to your practice, after they've successfully completed 90 days, you give them a referral bonus, right? So that's another way to bring in talent into your practice. And then the last one, that one's probably more specific to the positions, right? Depending on what you're hiring for. If you're hiring for positions that may not necessarily require too much experience, but you're okay with somebody that just graduated from college, that one might be a good one. So job fairs, going out to the community, talking to colleges, those are still very, very, very popular. So out of all these 3, which one do you think will get you the fastest hire? How many of you think that posting on websites will give you the fastest hire? Okay, a couple of people. Internal referrals. Whoa! Job fairs? Okay, so you guys are right. Okay, and do you guys know why that is the fastest way? Does anybody know? Perfect, thank you so much. Yes, that your employees have already done half of the job for you. Okay, they have already told their friends, the people they know, how awesome you are, the hours, the pay, the benefits. So they've already done half of the job for you. By the time you have somebody come in from an interview from a referral source, it's pretty much done. The employee that referred them probably already knows that they have the experience, the certification, whatever you would be looking for. So yes, thank you. That is the fastest way to hire employees. Now this next one talks about social media, right? Very popular. It's something you use almost every day. But the 2 things I want to mention to you today is how employers are really using social media. They're using it in 2 ways. One is posting the ads, LinkedIn, Facebook. They're reaching your network of friends, right, to tell them, hey, I'm looking for an office manager, I'm looking for front desk, I'm looking for this. So they're using it to post ads, but they're also using it to do backgrounds on applicants. Because think about all the public information that's out there, right? So a lot of people are not getting called for interviews because of what's on their social media sites, right? So that's how employers are using social media. They're using this as a tool to determine whether they will have somebody come in for an interview or not.
How many people under recent news, bless you, are comfortable with the way Facebook shares their information?
Okay, so these are the handouts that we have for you today. I'm just going to show you a couple more. We have a pre-screen questionnaire, and it looks like this. This is another tool that I would highly recommend. Ooh. Okay. This is another tool that I would highly recommend if you don't have it already. And even if you're not using an applicant tracking system, which you can add these questions into your applicant tracking system, you can still do it on paper. So we do have paper handouts for you. This handout is really, really good because it gives you, it narrows down the search. Again, it asks the applicant, what are your salary requirements? What are your certifications? When would you be eligible for an interview? And then 3 or 4 questions, things that you want to know about them before they come in for an interview, before you even make a decision whether they are eligible to come in for an interview or not. Sorry. Something happened here, one moment.
So let me take a second while you look at that. The other thing, when you're rolling out the benefits, we want to show them, you want to make sure that's simple. So you want to show them, yeah, we do have a medical plan. Obviously, depending on group size, whether or not you're required to have one. On 401k, they want to know if you have a 401k plan, do we match? And typically, we want that in a simple format, and there's usually about 4 plan options that we see when we oversee that. We usually have, the richer plan. This is going to be the more expensive one for people that have upcoming surgeries or they're having babies. We typically have a mid-level offering, which is about a $2,500 deductible. That's about a mid-level national average. We always want to have the HSA options. We usually design those around the IRS limits, so we usually see a lot of people in the practice taking advantage of that tax advantage. And then it's important, we still want to offer a minimum essential plan. And I'll speak to my state in Arizona. We still have one of the highest uninsured rates. I think it's like 30%. It's crazy. But we always try to get the employers to still have that minimum essential plan, even though it doesn't look attractive. You see a $6,350 or $7,000 deductible. You want to still offer that so they can take your defined contribution and still have access. Because from an employer standpoint, I still want people to take that plan because if something catastrophic happened, didn't have insurance, they went to the hospital and they got 6 figures in claims, that's going to destroy them financially. But if they hit a $6,000 deductible, $7,000 deductible, at least that's manageable to make payment plans on. But again, we want to make that simple and answer those simple questions. Is there a medical plan? Is there a match on the 401k or 2 of the most popular questions we see?
Yes, and how many of you, when you're getting ready to interview, have been asked, do you offer PTO, do you offer benefits? Has anybody gotten those questions? Yeah, so we have quite a few. So this right here is a benefit summary, 1 page. This is what I would highly recommend that you put together with your offering because this is gonna be very helpful for those applicants when they ask you those questions, right? When you wanna tell them about your PTO, your holidays, like Sky mentioned, all the benefit information. So this is an awesome tool to have available because it makes you look very organized. It makes you look like you're ready to answer those questions for those applicants. So highly recommended. The next thing that if you don't do already, you should look at implementing is personality assessments and skills assessments because you want to hire good talent, right? And doing personality assessments will get you that very top talent. And the reason for that is because the personality assessment, they're going to give you information about that applicant, right? They're going to give you information that they're not going to share with you during the interview. It's going to give you information about their strengths, weaknesses. It's going to predict their behavior and their performance. So personality assessments will do that. And it's going to, again, narrow down your search because you want top employees and you want to match the personality. When you match the personality to the job, you will increase your chances of hiring a long-term employee. Okay? So that's why doing personality assessments would be the right thing to do to make sure that you retain talent. So now that we've done a lot of the preliminary steps, now we're ready to interview. So you want to call your top applicants, right, that have done really well in the personality assessment. They return your pre-screen. Because one thing with the pre-screen is that when I have sent it out, because I do that for when we're hiring for us, and a lot of times when I send it out, I send 5 or 6 out in one day, and I only get 2 or 3 of them back. And some of you might say, wow, well that's so bad. Well, it's not bad. I want only the people that are truly interested to respond to my pre-screen, right? So if I send 6 of them and I only get 2, that's okay, because I know that the 2 that are coming back to me are interested, that are serious about the job. And the other 4 or 6 that didn't respond, that's okay, I don't need them to respond. So when you're interviewing, one of the things that I do that works really, really well for me, and that's why I want to recommend it to you, is that when you do the preliminary interview, you should still do it at a management level, and you should ask all the questions that you need to know, and you should find out all the information you need to find out from that applicant. But on the second interview, you should really select your top 2 or 3 candidates, and then bring team members in from that department that the employee is going to be working. Okay, and this is a great tool because now you're going to be getting other perspectives, right? Your team members are going to be able to ask questions, and they're going to give you feedback. It also benefits the new hire, because if you included your team members during the interview process, they're going to be much more open to welcoming that person. They're going to be like, wow, you included me as part of the process. I'm going to be more excited about training them. I'm not going to feel threatened by them. I'm going to be friendlier. I'm going to be really open to this new hire. So that's why including your team members is a great, great idea, and it works because I do it for our office. You know, the other thing that's very popular, especially in your industry, is working interviews. You know, how many of you do working interviews? Yeah, very popular. You know that when you have somebody that you really like, and this happens to me all the time. I get a great resume, they interview very well, and then they start, and I'm like in shock that it doesn't match, right? I'm like, what is going on? It doesn't match. So doing a working interview will help you with that, because it'll allow you to have them come in for half a day or a full day for you to see how they work. How do they get along with their co-workers? Do they ask a lot of questions? Do they learn quickly? So that's why working interviews are very, very good. So for those of you that aren't doing them, just another idea to hire employees. Okay, so these are some of the questions, and this is now getting into the legalities of interviewing, okay? So when you're interviewing, I'm sure a lot of you know that there are certain questions you cannot ask during an interview that you certainly can't ask later on after you make an offer of employment. But you have to be careful as a manager. You have to make sure that you know exactly the right way to ask a question so that you don't come across as discriminatory, right? Because we don't want any legal issues when interviewing. So make sure that if you haven't gone through any training on interviewing, that you do find somebody that can coach you and help you with that. Because it would be well worth it to know exactly the right way to ask questions, and then what questions you should completely avoid. And Sky, I feel like I haven't let you say a word, so I apologize. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, so thinking about these things, what is your hiring process? And I usually cringe. I oversee the benefits division. Who personally does the interviews for new hires? Yeah, so hopefully you've seen some good steps, going towards that, some tips that you can take away. I want to shift the paradigm to what the potential candidate is looking for. So when they're coming in, they're looking for that dream job. So they want to know about the benefit package. They want to know about the culture of the company. They want to know, room for advancement, things of this nature. So that's really what the employee is looking for, and good interviewers are looking to address those things. A lot of things that Noemi said. So you've made the decision to hire somebody, we want to make sure that they have a good onboarding process. So Noemi had alluded earlier to having complications in the hiring process and making the employees go through and jump through all these hoops. So I'm going to have Noemi go over what an ideal onboarding process looks like after you've decided to make the hire.
And this is such an important step. You want your new hires to feel welcome. You want them to feel good about coming to work for you, right? So one of the things you want to make sure, all of the paperwork, obviously you do need to do the new hire packet, collect their IDs, their employee handbook, their benefits, all of that is super important. But one of the things that I like to do on the first day of employment is buy our new hires a little gift. And it doesn't have to be anything big. It could be a small plant, a little welcome gift. That makes them feel, wow, they really put some thought into making sure that I felt welcome. The other thing that we do is we take them for a department lunch. So their departments take them to lunch, and we get to know them. We want to do that lunch so that we can get to know them on a personal level. Tell us about yourself, and let us tell you who we are. So we do that as well. The other thing that I find very, very important is, for you to have a job description. So if you don't, you should definitely be giving out the job descriptions, but more importantly, you should be giving out a training schedule, okay? Because they're gonna need training, whether it's answering the phones, filing, whatever it is that employee may need to learn. Even if they've done it for 20 years, they're still gonna have to learn it your way. So it's very important that you come up with this training schedule so that they know what to expect. Doesn't it feel good when you know what the next step is? So having that training schedule that shows exactly who's going to be training them and what topics, it's a great way to make them feel like, wow, this manager really, really knows what she's doing. She's letting me know who's going to train me, when, and what's the next step, so that I don't get scared and I don't, because it's scary. If you guys remember, I've been with CBR for 17 years, so trying to remember my very, very first day with CBR, but it was scary. You're coming into a new environment, you don't know the people, so you want to make sure that they feel welcome. So that's one way is to really do a good job with the onboarding.
Yeah. And it's interesting from our personal experience, we just brought in somebody new today to the division that started today, not good timing. So we wanted to obviously meet all the team members, go over, get in the culture, go out to lunch, and really try to get them acclimated from that standpoint. But right now, shifting over to benefits, the first thing I want to talk about is the structure, and specifically with medical practices. Obviously on the higher tier, we have the partners, the managing members, the doctors. We really want to identify that first, because I'm going to talk about the Department of Labor in a little bit, but we see, especially here in Arizona, Western region states, that we see a lot of control groups. So you see a lot of your affiliated groups. So that's imperative when we get into the 401k and the medical contributions and anything that the employer is doing. So we want to state that first, but then we look down to the mid-level, we look at the managers, and then obviously the support staff.
So really quick, on this, I want to mention that another great thing to do is, especially if you have different departments, right? If you have billing, you have different departments, you want to make sure that, one, you give the new hire an org chart so that they know exactly how they fit into your company. And two is to have them meet with other departments. Many people don't take that into consideration, but that is something that I like for my new hires is, okay, go meet with this manager, or go meet with this person, because you want to make sure that they actually grasp what everybody's responsible for. Because they're going to get questions that may not be necessarily be for them, so they're going to need to know how to reroute those questions to the right department. So another thing that I want to recommend is that you have the new hires schedule appointments with the different department managers, the different supervisors, to allow them to fully understand your practice and how everything runs and how it works. So very important step.
And kind of the hierarchy on benefits, when we start off, and at the bottom, we really put in the core benefits. And when we're doing benefit design, the key thing is really that human capital number. So what is that defined contribution towards the medical plan? on the 401k, is there matching? Are we doing it at safe harbor so that the highly comps are contributing? We want to put in that baseline benefit where we have the 401k, the medical I mentioned, we usually want to offer about 4 to 5 plans. And then we have all the, the voluntary benefits, the dental, the vision, the life, the disability, flex, HSA, FSA, all of those items. And then after we get that implemented, then we typically look at a second tier. So this is when we're talking about benefits as like executive carve-outs, typically non-qualified plans, deferred compensation. And then obviously when we get to the top, and I just talked about tax day, that's when we're talking about the things like profit sharing for the practices. So these are all good things to have, but after you put in those core benefits, again, when we talk about the Department of Labor and the requirements, then that's when we can start layering and doing things for some of the key employees. So the next question is identifying the key employees. So the Department of Labor has the definition for highly comps. So they say anyone that owns 5% or more of the entity or their direct relatives, and then they put a salary. Last year it was $115,000 or more. So the Department of Labor really segments it that way, and that's important when you're talking about the 401k plan and you hear testing and people get refunds. So you want to identify it in their terms. But in my terms, key employee, these are really the rock stars that are running your practice, that are helping you grow it. These are the ones when you're looking at that second level of benefit that you might offer something extra. And obviously we talked about executive compensation. We see the carve-outs where they might want to have this specific dental plan. A lot of times when you're talking about partners, buy-sell agreements, disability buyouts. So there's really that tier, but the most important thing for everybody is to really get in those core benefits and get a grasp on that budget, and then we can start identifying the key employees. So everybody's most famous Department of Labor. So I'm going to talk about that for a second, because when I meet with practices, my job really is the Department of Labor. They oversee your medical plan, they oversee your 401k plan. And the key there is whenever there's an employer contribution, if your practice is at the size or you're offering a medical plan, they just need to make sure that we're not discriminating. So if we have a medical contribution, we need to make sure that's straight across the board. So for the medical, the dental, and the vision, they have the requirements. You're 30 hours or more per week on average, $1,560 a year, so they can participate in the pre-tax Section 125 plan. That's when we're running the benefits pre-tax, but then they put different requirements on the 401k. So now they only require 1,000 hours. So we might have part-time people that are taking advantage of the voluntary benefits, the life, the disability. The 401k, 1,000 hours a year only equates to about 19 and a half hours. So we need to make sure those things are in compliance. If you see those, does anybody in the room sign off on the 5,500 for the 401k plan? Okay. So this is really why you want to be in compliance. Has anybody ever been through an audit on a welfare plan or a 401k? Wow. One? So obviously those are the things that you want to avoid. I've actually been through one as an advisor. I can say that I've learned a lot, but it's so taxing. So that's why you need to make sure these things are in place. And those of you that are signing the 5,500 as the trustee, you carry that liability. So that's your annual report card on the 401k where they're doing the testing. So when you're signing that as trustee, you're the one that is the first phone call. And unfortunately, with the audit, that's the first person they call. I don't know if you know this, but that 5,500 is public information. So that's my way you may be getting solicitation a lot. You can literally go to the DOL website and it says, this is the person that signed it. This is their advisor. This is how much the advisor made. And it has all that detail. If there's a problem, two of the biggest liabilities that we see are the payroll. So we see that there's a certain amount of days that when we pull a pre-tax deferral that it has to get to the record keeper. So we want to make sure that's tight. Another big liability is the advisor on the plan saying something to the employees that they shouldn't have said. So all of these things come back to the trustee. Usually we do see a partner, a CFO, someone that's signing that document, but we obviously want to make sure that that's cut clean. On the medical plan, we highly recommend to have an employer benefit outline. But last thing I want to say on the 401k plan, with the trustee, we highly recommend, if you're not doing this now, to have an annual meeting on the 401k plan. And I will share with you in the audit, it was a 5-year time period for our clients that they were auditing. So it took a couple of years. They did find, through the second year that one contribution file got kicked back and was like 10 days late. And that, that was the end of the audit. But when you're looking at the Department of Labor audit, the most important thing is when you're having that annual review, what I've learned is the Department of Labor is really concerned that as your plan is growing, especially if you're doing a profit sharing and defined contribution, that the price is going down, okay? So you want to have an annual meeting with the trustee, you want to have the advisor there, the third-party administrator, and go over all of these things. But as the assets are growing, I recommend at least 2 to 3 years to make sure that you go back to the record keeper or do a market analysis. Because what I can tell you in the only audit that I've been through, that's the one thing that the Department of Labor was most concerned with. The most valuable exercise we did on that plan is we showed, we were doing that annual meeting, but as the assets were going up, you could see that the cost was going down. So things like expense ratios, things of that nature. On the medical, we highly recommend to draw an employer benefit outline. So if the Department of Labor was to ever come in, we usually do it in one sheet. It's simple. It says, here's our waiting period. These are the plans that we offer. These are the monthly amounts. This is the employer contribution. If we're making a contribution towards dental, vision, we want to have that all tied up in one place. I have not been through a welfare audit on a medical plan, but obviously they want to make sure you're tracking hours, which is imperative through payroll, and they want to make sure, again, that that contribution is